Hi, I'm Erin Lundy.
And I'm Madeline Walden, and this is
Aquarium of the Pacific,
a podcast brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, Southern California's largest aquarium.
Join us as we learn alongside the experts in animal care, conservation, and more.
Hey.
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 I know it's
Remember
been a minute.
us?
Sorry in advance.
Sorry.
We've been a little busy.
You've been very busy.
The listener or me?
Well, actually, the listener.
The
yeah.
listener
Actually, you've been too
doesn't.
busy to listen to us, so we decided to just wait 7 months to record
for a little bit. We know it's been a second since we have recorded an episode, but we promise we actually have a new season coming out pretty soon. We are in the process of recording some new episodes. In the meantime, we did want to give you some excuses as to why it took us so long to come back around and record a new episode of Pacific. And it mostly has to do with conservation, which is great. And
it's like the most important thing.
Yeah, that's like my whole
That's like the
job.
best thing we could have been doing besides podcasting.
It goes podcasting way up here, and then conservation somewhere down in the middle.
Down there.
Yeah, that's second priority, but this summer did take first priority. So we actually hired a new conservation manager. Her name is Johanna Hultberg, and she and I share a desk. It is the best. We have Conservation Corner now. But we've been doing a lot of different conservation projects and helping with some of the things that have been happening here in California. So if you missed us, sorry.
But we're back, and we have even more conservation to talk about beyond this episode. Yeah. This season, we're going to talk about monarch butterflies. Mm-hmm. We're talking today about abalone and sunflower sea stars, and it sounds like we're going to have an all abalone episode for you because there's just so much to say about those little cute snails.
All abs all the time. I wish that was my life.
It's ab day.
We've got a fun episode with Johanna.
It's great. And we're so happy to be back. It's been too long, so we're excited to chat with you more. Again, you can follow us at Pacific. You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. And we're going to be back real soon with some really fun stories.
Okay, thanks for coming back.
Okay. Madeline hopping on here post-record to let you know that you can now email the podcast. That's right. We have an email inbox, so you can write to us at podcific@lbaop.org. podcific@lbaop.org. Feel free to email us with your suggestions for future episodes or just anything you want to share with us. Let's get into the episode. Welcome back to Aquarium of the Pacific. I'm Madeline Walden, your digital content and community manager, and today I am joined with
Erin Lundy. I am actually one of the aquarium's conservation managers, and I get to say that now because previously I was introducing myself as manager of conservation initiatives. But now we actually have two conservation managers for our husbandry department. Ooh. That's cheering if you're wondering what that sound is.
Not a wolf howl.
And Johanna, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Johanna Hultberg. I am the newest conservation manager, and I am overseeing the Fish and Invertebrate department, so helping with all of our conservation initiatives in that department.
Insert wolf sound here. It's cheering, don't worry.
It's a cheering wolf. It's a happy wolf.
We wanted to talk a little bit about some updates in conservation this year. This is going to be a smaller episode of the Aquarium of the Pacific today. We just wanted to let you know some of the cool things that we have going on at the aquarium.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening. We were just doing a sea turtle release last week.
Yeah.
And I know that you've had a ton of really exciting stuff happen the last couple of months. And Johanna joined us recently and was just thrown right into all of the amazing work that the aquarium does.
I think if I identify myself as frogs, Erin, you probably identify yourself as abalone, Johanna, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I love being defined by your passionate animal too.
Frogs,
your heart's
Erin,
passion.
abalone, Johanna. You should see our shared cube. There are frogs and abalone everywhere.
And golden retrievers.
Yes, there are also golden retrievers in there. Mm-hmm. But why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the cool abalone updates that have been happening since you've started? Which, by the way, when did you start again?
I started mid-May.
Oh,
so
wow.
We are just about at 3 months.
And you are now critical to the operations of conservation here at the aquarium.
Yeah, it has been a packed 3 months, but in all the best ways. I think it was my second week. We got a delivery on a private jet of 2,247, to be exact.
So exact.
Juvenile white abolone. So
First class.
they They came in
First-class abalones.
hot. Like, they were looking good in their private jet. So they came to us from UC Davis's Bodega Marine Lab, who is one of our key partners of our white abalone conservation work. So they sent us about 1.5-year-old white abalone that we've been helping to grow up nice and big here. So these abalone are destined for the ocean. They're going to make their way out into our local waters in the spring.
Nice.
They're in the spring outplant.
Can you talk to us a little bit, for those who aren't familiar, what is abalone? What are abalone?
What is
What
abalone?
What is an abalone?
Abalone, question mark.
Abalone are an iconic species. You can find them worldwide, but they are a type of marine snail. Here in California, we have 7 different species, and they have played a really important role in California's culture, dating back to the indigenous people. They would use them as fishing hooks, as jewelry. There's even evidence that they were used with monetary value as trade. But then we're also really heavily used for food. So a lot of cultures relied on them for food. And now white abalone specifically are endangered species because of this. So they were actually the first marine invertebrate ever to be listed on the Endangered Species Act back in 2001.
Truly iconic animals.
Very iconic.
They were the trendsetters, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
A poor trend, but we still consider them icons at the end of the day. I was going to ask you, so I think that there is benefit to doing a larger abalone episode at some point, because the aquarium's been involved with the White Abalone Project for 13, 14 years now.
Almost 20, actually.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Much longer than I
Since
thought.
2007.
That project is an almost legal drinking age. But when you received 2,247 abalone at 1.5 years old, how big are the abalone?
You know, it varies quite a bit, because with 2,247 individuals, they're not exactly uniform. But our largest, when we received them, was around 20 millimeters. I think we maybe had
Huge.
one that was a little bigger than that. So if you guys think of the size of a quarter, we're talking around that size. And our smallest were maybe at maximum 5 millimeters. So
Teeny tiny.
the white on your fingertip, basically.
We just both looked.
So there's quite a big size variation between them. But at 1.5 years old, they're not very big yet. I think the max size of a quarter.
It's crazy that they take so long to get to the size that we maybe want to put them out. And so I think similar to what we're doing with mountain yellow-legged frogs and with our sea otter surrogacy project, the component that we are primarily doing in this project is head starting, right? And so we're receiving young juveniles, rearing them until they are a better size, and then releasing them or outplanting them in the case of abalone. What size are we looking for to release the abalone?
The smallest size we look for to release abalone is about 25 millimeters, so that
wow.
quarter size. So a few of them that we got were actually ready to be outplanted at that point, but we really try to keep the population together and outplant as populations. And as a program, we try to be strategic about ensuring that we have abalone available twice a year. So even though we had a handful of them that could be outplanted with this fall outplant, we really wanted to save that population for the spring when we can outplant a larger number, hopefully targeting additional outplanting sites.
Have you gotten to go on outplanting yet?
I have actually my second day at the aquarium.
Truly critical
Day
immediately.
number 2.
Really
I got to go
exciting
on a
thing.
boat. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it
Abalone
was.
days are. I've been on a couple, and it's really fun, but I get so seasick because you're just posted up out there in the middle of the ocean, and everybody's having such a good time, and like it is a really wonderful day, and there's food, you guys cook, but it is a gnarly day for someone who's seasick. So I applaud you.
It absolutely is. You got to be prepared for that day.
Is it so when we're releasing or outplanting them, are we typically diving and then putting them down on the seafloor? And then do we protect them in some way, shape, or form? Like, how do we best set them up for success?
Absolutely. So we use these little baskets, basically. I'm saying that as if it's a very simple term, but they're these basically really long plastic tubes that have a good-sized mesh to essentially keep the abalone in, but also keep predators out. So the reason we like using these mesh-type baskets is because it allows for seawater to flow through the baskets. So our dive team, so we have a scientific dive team here that participates in the outplanting alongside some some of our partners. We will stock the pods up with abalone and ample amounts of kelp for them once they get down there. And then we attach them to concrete bases, essentially. And we'll position those bases near suitable habitat for them. So we'll look for rock crevices, areas where we see good algae. And we also monitor these sites for a very long time before ever even putting the abalone here. So we make sure that they're really great habitat for the abalone. And then sometimes we'll pop those pods open immediately on deploying, and other times we'll go back and revisit that site about a week later and open the pod then to give them time to acclimate.
Nice. That's really cool. I kind of wish I could go out on that, except for the seasick thing. I think that would happen to me as well. Day 2, you released abalone, and then pretty recently you've also received then 2,247 new abalone. And I'm guessing that is also in addition to whatever we have on site. And are we also breeding them here?
We do, yeah. So we have in total, let me see if I can do the math off the top of my head, 24 plus 15.
39.
So 39. We have 39 broodstock abalone here, which means that those are abalone that will stay with us for quite a while, most of their life, and will participate in joint spawns once or twice a year, where we're essentially looking to get gametes from them. So those gametes are then fertilized and later used to outplant the abalone once they're nice and big.
That is cool. I think we have to do a full abalone episode.
I know. We'll have to dive into that literally.
So many questions.
Maybe we'll do it live from the boat and we can both be seasick.
Yeah.
On the pod.
Yeah, I think if we do a full episode, we can talk a little bit more about the project. But it sounds like you've pretty much jumped straight into abalone, and that was pretty much a large component of your background coming into the aquarium too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been doing this project for a while now, so it's been really exciting to, first of all, get to go on my first outplanting boat trip since starting here, since previously that wasn't a component I was a part of. But yeah, get to build up this program and really start putting some large numbers to it.
Amazing. Erin,
Yes.
you mentioned surrogacy for a second. Do you want to touch on some surrogacy updates?
So sea otter surrogacy is something that we are doing in conjunction with Monterey Bay Aquarium, and functionally our program's been up and running for about a year and a half now, which is great. We have been actively participating in some surrogacy efforts, which is really nice to see, and working pretty closely with Monterey Bay Aquarium. There will be some updates, I think, that will go out more formally, potentially news updates and things like that as things go on. But for now, all I can say is we are participating in surrogacy, and we are very happy with our ability to kind of augment the population of sea otters off our coast, because it's a really important program, and we're very excited to be partners with Monterey.
Yeah, it's a wonderful program. And if you're interested in learning more, we actually, our very first episode is all about sea otters, and we talk a little bit about our surrogacy program as well. So just scroll back in your feeds and you will find that.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. We've been doing a lot of stuff. Sea otters probably would eat abalone. However,
Sorry.
Sorry.
You do not need to apologize. It is all about balance.
It's nature.
But the point, right? You want the full circle.
Exactly.
Keystones all around.
Ecosystem approach.
Thankfully and not thankfully, there are no sea otters this far south, and so the abalone we're outplanting are safe from predation from the most voracious mammal in the ocean.
From sea otters.
For now. So, day 2, abalone release. Day, whichever it was, more abalone coming in. We're doing abalone spawns. You're not just the abalone conservation manager, though. You also are part of Pycnopodia, so sunflower stars. Tell us a little bit about what it looks like to manage that program.
Yeah, the Sunflower Sea Star program is a really exciting one. The Aquarium of the Pacific was actually one of the founding members of our AZA, which is the Association of Zoos and Aquariums SAFE, which stands for Saving Animals from Extinction Sunflower Program, in addition to one of the founding members of PCOR, which is the Pacific Coast Ocean Restoration Initiative. So the Aquarium plays a really important role in both of those programs. So it's been really exciting to kind of step into that. Here on site, we have 7 juvenile sunflower sea stars that were reared back in 2024. They're actually 1 day younger than the abalone that we received, which is really funny. So the juvenile sunflower sea stars were fertilized on February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Wow.
So they are called
So
the
sweet.
Cupid cohort.
Oh, that's
So the abalone, for reference, would then be February 13th. So they're
That's my
1 day
friend's
apart.
birthday.
Oh, she can share
Shout
that
out.
with our osprey
Shout out to your friend.
population.
Yeah, shout out Lauren. But I guess that makes them brothers, right?
Yeah.
To me,
In
it does.
Aquariuses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Aquarius
Aquariuses.
is brothers.
That works out really well
Which is
for
the
an
best to be.
aquarium.
Oh, a fellow Aquarius at the table.
I am. I'm February 16th,
Oh,
so
wow.
just 2 days apart.
You're also brothers with them.
so I am
Everyone's
one of the brothers.
Hi,
That's
it
why
goes
you're here.
Sunflower Stars, white abalone, and then Johanna, all
Yeah, of
brothers.
course.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
makes
We're
sense.
basically triplets if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. So we have juvenile sunflower stars
We have
here.
7.
We bred them here.
They weren't reared here, but they were part of a collaboration that the Aquarium of the Pacific was a part of. So some of the gametes from our historic populations were utilized in the fertilization of these juveniles. And so we got them when they had settled. So if you aren't aware, they take about 50 days to settle.
Oh, wow.
So we got them somewhere after 50 days post-settle or post-fertilization.
How big are they now?
Right now, our largest one is getting close to 50 millimeters.
Whoa,
and
huge.
really exciting. If
2
you want to
quarters.
come measure it yourself, you can actually see it on exhibit.
Quarters.
2 quarters.
Exactly.
Quarters.
Or $50.
Or half yeah, I was like, does that even out?
Yeah.
He, she, we don't know.
We don't
obviously. But they are so cute on exhibit. And it's the first time we've ever had baby sunflower sea stars on exhibit. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
Which exhibit are they in?
They are in Rocky Reef, which is on the second floor in the Northern Pacific Gallery.
Yeah, so since you last heard a podcast episode from us, we launched our Stars of the Sea summer program, and that's going to go all the way through next year. Part of that has been a launch of a new exhibit called Our Living Coastline, and we're going to have fan favorite Brooke Hernandez back to speak on that in a future episode. But yeah, it's stars everywhere all over the aquarium, but especially highlighting this crucial conservation effort that Johanna is a part of. So you should definitely check it out. There's sea stars highlighted all around the aquarium with special signs. They're very beautiful, and you have to see these baby sunflower sea stars. They're so sweet.
They're very cute.
They are. They're so cute. And they're not going to stay small for long. These stars get up to 3 feet in size.
Whoa.
So they are very large. In fact, some argue they're the largest in the world. So you got to get them now while they're cute and little.
And they're the fastest, right?
And they're the fastest, yeah.
Does anyone argue that something else is the largest in the world?
Well, you can argue some tropical species. So there's a few that come close. So
Sunflower stars are more temperate then and only live in colder water.
correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The more
We
you
also
know.
have a Sunflower Star episode
Sure.
back from our first season as well. So scroll back in your feed to find that if you'd like to learn more. And we'll continue to update you on all things sunflower, Pycnopodia.
Pycnopodia, which is a really fun word that I still don't always know how to spell properly. It is a little bit tricky.
It is hard.
Can you spell it right now?
Oh God. Pycnopodia.
Yeah,
Nice.
that
She
was
did
right.
it.
No, you could have said anything. And
I
would have
passed the
agreed.
spelling
Yeah, that
bee.
was right. This is actually why we brought you on, is just to test your spelling. So Sunflower Stars and White Abalone are both projects that the aquarium was a part of prior to you joining us, as well as one other sort of burgeoning initiative, which was bulk kelp, right? And so how do you participate in and/or what does that project look like to do bulk kelp conservation?
The Bulk Kelp project is really cool. So we are one of 3 facilities that are holding the gametophytes, which is basically the reproductive material of kelp, if you've ever thought about that before.
That's all I think about.
I always think about it.
Yeah, they are not quite, they look like plants, but they don't reproduce in the same way that plants do. So they have this really specialized genetic material, essentially. So we keep those gametophytes in a fridge here. It's basically a souped up wine cooler.
I've seen it.
It is. And it has special light, and we control the temperature. And each of those gametophytes are held in a single tube. So we have hundreds of tubes in this fridge that we have to do water changes on twice a year. So
Only twice a year.
yeah, throughout the year, we remove that water and we put in new water that has really small amounts of nutrients in it to ensure that the gametophyte doesn't grow too large, because we want it to stay in this little test tube. So essentially what we're doing this for is that we're holding those gametophytes in the event that the bull kelp forests of Northern California and further north ever disappear. So we are a copy of a copy of a copy, essentially, to back up this genetic information to ensure that in the case of any catastrophe, these forests can recover.
In case of emergency, break wine cooler.
Exactly.
How many other institutions have bulk kelp libraries?
We are one of 3.
Oh, okay. So
Amazing.
it's nice that we have sort of all that redundancy. Are they kind of in a deep freeze until we're ready to use them?
We're not quite freezing them. They're being held in cold water, but they are in water, so we don't want to fully freeze them.
Probably wouldn't like that.
I don't know. I don't know if they like that. Being nice.
Be interesting caring for animals and also a very important plant species, and also kind of treating the plant species like an animal because it's alive. I'm making it make sense in my head. It's
Absolutely.
fascinating.
It is.
It is interesting. And kelp is its own whole thing. Like, I didn't realize before coming, like, I grew up in Hawaii, so I didn't have kelp around. There's different types of algae, but they really don't exist in the same way. I very recently went diving for the first time here in California, which was cool, but there was a lot of kelp everywhere. And it's not something you're really used to unless you've ever been diving in a kelp forest. And it is so beautiful and it is so abundant that it is hard to imagine a world where kelp is endangered or not doing the best. What is happening with the bull kelp? Why are we preserving them? Why are we worried specifically about that species?
So kelp in general thrives in really cold water. It loves the coast of California specifically and the Pacific coast because of our upwelling that we get here. So we get really cold, nutrient-dense waters from the deep ocean, essentially, which help these species to survive. But as our oceans are becoming more acidic and as our oceans are warming, we are losing these kelp forests because they're not getting the same nutrients and they're experiencing much higher summers, essentially, much warmer waters than historically they have. So these kelp forests are essentially losing their ability to thrive off of our coast.
In addition to urchin predation, which is exacerbated by the loss of keystone species like the sunflower star, which do eat urchins, and sea otters. So very interconnected.
all connected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And abalone also get eaten by those things. So they are also connected.
Truly.
But it must be interesting to manage so many different projects that are both separate, but also functionally all caused by the same thing. And I think ultimately ties together why we have the job that you and I have, which is conservation manager, and what it is that we're trying to accomplish here. So I know it's 3 months in, but you're already doing everything, so I'm going to already ask the hard questions. Why is conservation important, and sort of what does your job do to help conservation?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of what we've talked about already really highlights why conservation is so important, is that it really is a web, and we don't even fully understand all of the connections yet of our kelp forest ecosystems. But conservation essentially is important because we're protecting the biodiversity of these ecosystems, which in turn provides us with great resources like protecting our coastlines, helping us to provide food, but it also provides habitat for other species. So it gives other animals off of our coast a place to live. And it really essentially in whole makes our ecosystems more resilient to climate change. So the more biodiverse our ecosystems are, the more resilient they are. So conservation is really necessary at this point. I mean, speaking for my species alone, abalone were known to be around about 80 million years ago is the oldest fossil we have for them.
Wow.
Sea stars predated dinosaurs by over 200 million years. I mean, these kelp forests are thought to be about 32 million years old. So these species have been around for quite literally millions of years. And in just a few decades, they've become extinct or close to being extinct. And so I think it really is part of our role and our responsibility to help conserve these species and in turn the ecosystems.
I think a lot of those anthropogenic factors and human cause factors are what seems to be accelerating the rate at which we are losing species and losing biodiversity. And it is really cool to have known of these projects and known that we are participating in them. But now, especially because, like we said, they're so connected and they're also related to the kelp forest and preservation of that ecosystem, it's really cool to see all of that work being consolidated in one person, because I think that is also symbolic of the interconnectedness of how much these projects really overlap. So it's been really cool to have you here. And how have your first 3 months been? Busy?
They've been busy, but in all the best ways. I mean, I grew up here in California, and especially in Southern California. So these are the waters that I grew up swimming in. And, you know, I really have grown with this like stewardship. My parents really instilled that in me for our coast and how important our coast is. So I think being able to be in a role now where I'm really getting to play a deep role in a lot of this conservation work has been so fulfilling and so exciting. So it's been busy, but in all the best ways.
I agree.
Beautiful. Well, Erin, I want to throw a similar question to you. What inspires you about conservation?
Similar. I grew up in Hawaii, and I grew up being able to see really the best of everything in the natural world, like the most pristine ocean, the most pristine beaches, rare birds that you'll never see anywhere else, and like learned a lot about speciation and how unique and special everything that we had was. And I think it was really difficult for me to move away from Hawaii and feel like that mindset wasn't as universal as potentially it was when I was growing up in an environment where that was very much at the forefront of how everyone thought and how everyone acted. And so I moved to the East Coast for a little bit. It was very jarring to see someone throw trash on the ground. Like, I'd never seen that in my life, and it seemed so alarming to me that people live this way. And I understand that that isn't ever really meant to do harm. Like, people aren't doing that intentionally. And so I think it's been this long journey of trying to figure out how to show someone what is special about the natural world and why they should just think a little bit more before they interact with our natural environment. And that is both very challenging because everyone comes from different backgrounds, and by no means do I ever want to shame someone or make them feel less than for not knowing about something. But there is also so much cool stuff I want to show them. And all of that cool stuff does go away if we don't sort of communally come together and work on some of these things. Plus, I now really get to be involved with a lot of rare frog species. And that is pretty cool because we don't really... I get to work with species that people have never seen before. Like, I think that is very cool and fulfilling in its own right. But then also, there is periodically these very weird in the most positive way, herptile people or frog-loving people who come to the aquarium and are like, I have never seen a mountain yellow-legged frog, but I have spent years looking for them. And it is so cool to just be able to show someone the 780 that we have behind the scenes and be like, these guys are going back out in the wild and they're going to be released at some point. And so I think it's all about finding ways to inspire people and connect people to that, and also just to find what resonates with every individual, because it's always going to be different. And it's been cool because I have very little connection to the fish and invertebrate side of things that we do here at the aquarium. And so when people would come and do these tours, I can show them sea otters, I can show them mountain yellow-legged frogs, I can show them whatever else we have going on. But then they'll be like, hey, what about the kelp? And I'll be like, ooh, I don't know as much
There's
about
a fridge.
that. Yeah, we have this cool fridge,
Here's a
but
wine
I'm
cooler.
not
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
I don't know if they're frozen. I don't know anything about it. And so it's been really nice now to have sort of my equal to
Counterpart.
Yeah, counterpart. Exactly. Probably more than equal at this point, I think. You've
bull
got
to your kelp.
2,000 to my 780, so I think that we're doing very similar things. It's just cool to have someone that I can reference and sort of know they have that same ambition and repository of information, but about projects that I can't know that much about because my head would explode.
Speaking of your frogs, you want to give an update on all things Frogland?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because we know a lot about these frogs anyway, but
We also have a mountain yellow-legged frog episode a couple
Yes.
seasons ago. Check that out for more information on the mountain yellow-legged frog.
It's just me talking a lot about frogs. So as of right now, we have released 638 mountain yellow-legged frogs. The last official count, I believe, was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it was 188 adults in the wild. Since then, unfortunately, we have had some wildfires that have impacted their habitat. One of them in particular potentially burned about 95% of the usable habitat for this already endangered species. And during one of the site surveys, they also noticed a high incidence of chytrid fungus, which is unfortunately a disease that is very deadly for amphibians in some of the usable habitat, and they did see a population crash. So the species isn't doing the best in the wild right now, which is why we opted to take on more individuals for head starting this year. So across the 5 holding spaces that we have for these animals, we currently have 780 animals, which is a lot. The recruitment rate for this species in the wild is about 1% from egg to adult. We're very fortunate in that when we receive them as tadpoles up until release, we've been seeing on average 60 to 70% survivorship, which is great. Obviously, there's a lot of things that go into that, and obviously all the frogs that go out don't survive, as much as in my heart I really wish that they all did.
They live on in
I
your
feel
heart.
that one.
Yeah, it's devastating a little bit to be like, I really hope you do good out there. But when we went out on a site survey, we actually saw one of the frogs that we released last year. And I think for the first time, I knew for a fact that was one of our frogs because that site was empty the previous year. And I think it was Big Chicken, who I think I've referenced.
Had to be Big Chicken.
Before. But
she lives on.
She's out there. She's making babies. But we saw 3 or 4 mountain yellow-legged frogs. One in particular was very large. And I think that because they hadn't seen any, and the only animals they released at that site last year were ours, they're very likely to be ones that we reared. So very fulfilling to see a few of them. And then I actually got to go out on the release as well with LA Zoo, and they released some tadpoles, and we released some of our young frogs. So it was nice to kind of have this, everyone comes together and does this amazing thing together. So 638 is our current release number. If I hit 1,000, I can retire, is what I keep telling everyone. No, you can't. Still I'll just do
1
full-time
million.
podcasts. Yeah, 1 million frogs.
I think, up to 1 million. That's a way better goal.
Okay, that's fine. There's not that many of them. They do reproduce by the thousands, but I feel like 1 million is 1,000 thousands, and I don't know that we have space for that.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But the other really cool thing that we got to be a part of this summer that took up a lot of my time, but was totally worth it, is the National Park Service reached out to us with a project to Head Start California red-legged frogs. And they had collected these egg masses from these streams that were being adversely impacted by very late winter storms. So when there was a ton of rain, basically these egg masses would then just get washed downstream, and the tadpoles would very likely not hatch out or survive. But they collected partial egg masses just for a captive assurance population, which is just us holding onto them and rearing them here. And we were able to rear and release 587 tadpoles, which is fantastic. So red-legged frogs are a threatened species and a species of special concern here. And it was really cool to work in conjunction with National Park Service. And they sent some pictures of them pouring the tadpoles into the stream, which was really cool. So it's been a very frog summer.
How many different colors of legs are there in frog world?
I think it's just red and yellow. But there's also Sierra yellow-legged frogs. Like, there's other yellow-legged frogs. There's probably other red-legged frogs, but I don't know. And so I don't know why they're naming them just by leg color.
So specific.
But it's been a very froggy summer,
works.
and we've released about 700 amphibians in some way, shape, or form, even just this year, which is pretty cool, too.
Yeah, it's been a pretty intense year here in California. Of course, we started off the year with our detrimental wildfires. The aquarium has assisted with several animals as a part of the disaster response, including some tidewater gobies, and I'll include a link to that in the show notes of the social media story we did on those. It was a really, really beautiful release day that we did on those tiny little fish that are so impactful, and it was such a collaborative effort. I'll include some notes on that in the show notes, so stay tuned for that.
It's been cool. It's been busy.
Yeah.
Therefore, not podcasting very much this summer.
I know.
But we're getting back to it.
We're getting back to it.
And now we have a whole new person to interview about abalone. I have a feeling we will not have any issue filling an entire hour with abalone.
Oh, no.
Maybe 2.
Maybe
we interview an abalone. And I think it'll go even better than Lola.
As silent as Lola. We had our sulfur-crested cockatoo on the podcast in this room. We were very excited to interview Lola, and I think the silence of this room, and I've never seen that bird be quiet in my life, but he was
just yelling in admin today.
Screaming out here, came into this room, closed the door, and he didn't make a sound the entire time. And we couldn't, even for like seeds and treats and things that he liked, he would not talk.
Well, abalone are always silent, so maybe they're going to come in here and
scream.
Abalone
they're going to start
ASMR.
reciting a poem.
What would you do if they just started making sounds while in here?
I think I would probably cry.
That'd be an amazing discovery for our podcast.
That's true.
That's what we need. If you can make that happen, that would be awesome.
I know. I need to think about what the first question I would ask them is.
Why?
What do you like to eat? And it's macrocystis. For sure.
Algae.
More algae. Yeah, we're feeding them. Do we grow the kelp that we feed them?
We don't grow the kelp, but we do grow some dulse, which is a red algae species. I say grow in very light terms. We purchase it and then it grows slowly. So it's growing a little bit as we feed it, but we usually do have to restock.
Yeah.
But we are growing a microalgae, a diatom specifically, that they love to eat called navicula. So it's actually really nutritious for them when they're young because it's really lipid rich. So it kind of helps them as they grow up. And we're actually looking to do a little bit more specialized diets in the future for our brood stock, those ones that will stay with us. because it's thought that the lipid-rich navicula is really great for females who are developing egg yolks, but not quite as great for the males. We want them to stay nice and lean. So we'll be using that species quite a bit moving forward.
As a female, I love lipid-rich foods. Too. So I can totally see.
Peer-reviewed.
That is actually the scientific paper, is all females want something that's lipid-rich at all times. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we can easily fill a whole episode on abalone. Their favorite foods, what they like, what they don't like.
Poetry reading.
Yeah.
Whatever.
From them. That's the only poetry we accept on this podcast. Abalone poetry.
I love it. Well, thank you both so much for chatting with us about conservation. Any last words about conservation that you'd like to share?
I think that one thing that is so inspiring about doing conservation work is that it will never be one person. It will never be one institution. It really is the collaboration between partners that leads to the success of these programs. And so I think that's one of the most inspiring parts of being in this line of work is that you're surrounded, like Erin said, by so many people that care about all the same things that you care about and are equally as passionate and equally as driven. And it really pushes you to, like, it builds on that, you know, like it's an energy that you can kind of feel, and it makes everyone really excited to do the work. So I really do love the collaboration aspect of it.
That's
something
awesome.
That's really special in this line of work.
Definitely. Shout out to our partners.
Shout out to all frogs and snails.
Shout out to the snail people.
Yeah. There's a surprising amount of snail people.
Yeah.
There are.
And
Rightfully
people.
so.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Sorry.
She's like, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us for this little conservation catch-up. I think that's what we're gonna call it.
Thanks for having me.
Minisode. Yeah, thanks for being on the podcast. Okay, you guys got to go back to being critical to conservation efforts.
Johanna probably has to go on a dive right now.
Yeah, literally now.
She has to go.
I'm due to the water. In
the water is calling me.
I have to go be with my snails now.
Just saying, check back in the Northern Gallery in a mere few weeks because we will likely have juvenile bull kelp back on exhibit.
Where?
It'll be right next to our sunflower sea star, actually.
Cute.
So it'll
Conservation
be
corner in
in
there.
Bays and Sounds.
Nice.
It's a
That'll be
beautiful
cool.
habitat.
And bays and
Bays and
sounds.
sounds.
Cool. Aquarium of the Pacific is brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Keep up with the aquarium on social media at Aquarium Pacific on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
This podcast is produced by Aaron Lundy and Madeline Walden. Our music is by Andrew Reitzma, and our podcast art is by Brandy Kenny. Special thanks to Cecile Fisher, Anitza Valles, our audiovisual and education departments, and our amazing podcast guests for taking time out of their day to talk about the important work that they do.
Podcific isn't possible without the support of the aquarium's donors, members, guests, and supporters. Thanks so much for listening.